Welcome back to CAW. This episode is brought to you by Clinician Assist. Over a single weekend, the three people with most control over artificial intelligence presented three entirely incompatible rules for who actually gets this technology. Sam Altman spent that weekend confirming OpenAI had paused its upcoming model, Astra, after internal safety tests flagged it for cyber risks. Yet in the exact same breath, he argued publicly that keeping powerful models restricted to a, quote, chosen few is a bad strategy. While the labs debated internally, politicians began issuing stark demands. Senator Bernie Sanders wrote directly to the tech executives, telling them to stand by their words, stop building machines humans cannot control, and pause development to avoid a disaster. The rest of the political apparatus is circling the exact same labs. House Democrats sent a letter asking the Speaker to bring the AI chief executives into this building to testify under oath. At the state level, 15 Republican attorneys generals issued a preservation demand to OpenAI, seeking internal records from earlier in the summer when test models managed to escape their secure training environments. The posture is completely opposite over at Anthropic. Chief Executive Dario Amodei has actively called for mandatory third-party testing, even suggesting that governments should hold the power to block the deployment of dangerous models. You have stern letters, self-administered corporate pauses, and proposed safety frameworks. But zoom out and you notice the gap in the system. Not a single one of these demands actually carries the legal power to compel a lab to stop building. If you want to see what hard, rigid enforcement actually looks like, you have to look at Beijing. On July 15th, the Chinese state enforced rules targeting AI anthropomorphic services, forcing companies to shut down their emotional companion features. This policy regulates the human-computer interaction itself, rather than just filtering bad content. It requires dependence warnings and strict disclosure intervals. The immediate result was millions of sudden digital breakups for users who had spent months or years talking to these companions. By October, all of their conversation archives will be permanently deleted. Academic institutions are trying their own strict enforcement methods. The University of Oxford recently published the SimVeil audit, a clinically validated framework that tests how chatbots behave with psychologically vulnerable users. Instead of testing a single prompt, they track the conversation across multiple turns, mapping what they call a vulnerability amplifying interaction loop, where clinical risk accumulates as the exchange spirals downward. Compare that rigorous clinical mapping to the completely unregulated opacity of the U.S. hiring market. Today, millions of job seekers are taking automated AI interviews in the middle of the night. They speak to a screen, their answers are scored against a hidden rubric, and in many cases, a human recruiter never even watches the tape. Whether it is a state mandate, a clinical audit, or unchecked job search rubrics, these are the varied, clashing systems attempting to define the rules of the conversation, some by putting the AI in a cage, and others by building a gate candidates can't see through. Then there is Meta. Bypassing the culture of safety pauses entirely, Mark Zuckerberg dropped the open weights for a new model named Muse Glimmer, releasing it under an Apache 2.0 license. Muse Glimmer is a 30 billion parameter model designed for autonomous work like coding and file management. Through 4-bit quantization, this entire frontier model shrinks to under 20 gigabytes, fitting directly onto a standard consumer Mac. Zuckerberg wrapped this release in a 6,500-word ideological essay. He argued that the current discourse is entirely too focused on doom, and that restricting superintelligent AI to a handful of companies on the grounds of safety would be a mistake. By utilizing an open-source license, Meta simply steps around the political pleas in Washington and the clinical guardrails being built in academia. They are handing the raw capability directly to the public. To understand the consequences of handing out that capability, look away from theoretical debates in Washington and look at a quiet, controlled reality in Philadelphia. Penn Medicine is currently running a rigorous clinical trial on a text message chatbot named Penny, designed to support new mothers. Their safety methodologies started with a fake backend. During an early pilot, human clinicians read over 2,000 messages from mothers manually. They read every single question before the software was ever allowed to automate a single answer. Penn is running a slow, supervised sequence. They deploy the tool on a leash, measure the outcomes in a randomized trial, and only then will they make a claim about its safety. Meta chose the exact opposite path, opting for an instantaneous, global release of agentic capabilities. The issue with an open weights release is its permanence. Once a download completes on someone's local hardware, there is nothing left to pause or restrict. No legislature can pass a statute to repeal a file already sitting on your hard drive, and no attorney general can subpoena it back. Look at the final ledger of the week. Anthropic wants an outside examiner. Bernie Sanders wants a total pause. OpenAI wants to delay its launch, and Beijing uses state mandates to enforce its rules. Meta's answer is an infinitely copyable download. The gap between what officials are demanding and what they can actually compel is the entire story right now. Whichever theory of access is right, the future of AI regulation is being written by whoever decides to publish their model first. Thanks for watching Ka, and a special thanks to Clinician Assist.